can't pull the plug on that on a video game, then I have pity on you, my son or daughter. Don't do that. That's a terrible thing. But Iceman completely admitted it. Said, you know what? I did this for years. I saw what it did, and I'm not proud of it. We're moving on with life. Good for you. Carrara 2 talked about really anything that was overtly Japanese, and I think this is a good point. When I go to conventions and I start to talk to people and I start to see what people are doing, one of the things I think I see more often there than anything else is our Japanese kind of cultural tropes. You see it really everywhere. And I think, in that context, most people just kind of go, oh, okay, yeah. But if you're out in really, the subway, you're taking a book to work, you're watching videos, you're watching videos at work or something, I think you can expect a fair amount of people to be kind of like, wow, that's really, really geeky and crazy, and to not really accept that, right? I think that, and kind of make fun of you for it. And I can totally see that. But really, it's anything overtly Japanese. I'm not sure exactly why, but I think Carrara 2 talked about it a little bit in the post of, being necessarily that they see it as more of a juvenile culture. There's the kind of whole WTF Asian phenomenon, which, the whole Gangnam Style, right, has kind of perpetuated, right? People just kind of look at it and go, what the hell is that? It's just those crazy Asians, right? That's just crazy, right? So if you're being part of it openly without the kind of ironic twist of, wow, I can't stop watching this video, it's a little bit different. So yeah, I absolutely empathize with that. Man with a Harmonica mentioned something that's near and dear to my own heart, which is Mystery Science Theater 3000, which is, the perfect example to bring in here. So one of the things, I'll give you another story. I don't know why I'm not just, I told you I would save all my stories to the end for my own opinion, but I'll tell you, this is something I completely agree with. It's very difficult to get, you have found the right girl when you can ask if they want to watch an MST3K and they say yes. That's when you found the right girl, gentlemen. Just know that, okay? And obviously, I have yet to find the right one. But in any case, MST3K is so delightfully wonderful that it really inspired Rue and several of our friends to have. We had movie nights with a big group of friends. We'd have almost like a party that was focused around watching a particular movie. And MST3K was such a big part of our lives that we kind of, when we would watch a movie that we openly hated, like we'd watch Armageddon or something that was just kind of really just, none of us wanted to watch, we would openly kind of MST3K it while we were going through it. And I think that became the source of fun for us. It was just being a way to be geeky and quick-witted sometimes, and to say things that were just funny and make the movie funny without actually having to enjoy the movie. And MST3K did that for me. But it also kind of, after a while the girls were kind of pissed, or most of them, we were just like, shut the hell up, why aren't you just watching the movie? Okay, good point. But anyway, MST3K was a big part of our lives, and I totally think that's a great one to throw out there. DTX 180, also mentioning the geek on geek hate. Talk about playing retro games versus playing current games. So I have found this in my life as well. The idea that like for example, I run a gaming website, for God's sakes. I know about what's going on in video games, and I've played a lot of contemporary video games, even if I don't own them. But the fact that I don't spend all of my time playing them shocks some people, right? Like, I know Assassin's Creed is out there. I'm most likely not going to be buying the new Assassin's Creed. It's not because I don't want to. I would love to. I don't have time to be playing a bunch of games, and it's not that high on my priority list. What that means is that there are other games I want to play. So, and you almost get looked down upon for that. Like, how do you not spend your time playing these games? And it's like, well, I like to do other things with my time. Thank you very much. And I'm a multifaceted and diverse, interested kind of person. And, you know, there's got to be a lot of different things that kind of make you tick. So the fact that you don't actively and openly play all the brand new video games will get you some amount of disdain, and I thought that was a great point by DTX 180. Alright, so Kane Highwind might have summarized everything I wanted to say without necessarily talking about a specific thing, specific, you know, focus about or obsession. And that is this. I think the entire argument might be summarized thusly. It's not necessarily what aspect of geekiness makes you geeky or invites that kind of disdain. It's how you deal with it once it happens. And I think that's very important, guys. You know, many times we go through life and we kind of say who we are, and we're invited to think that that's a bad thing because it's going to make us seem X, Y, Z. And I know for me, as somebody that is uncomfortable in certain circumstances with the fact that I am as big a geek as I am, which might not be that big, but I think it's big to a certain extent, right? You know, I have to I temper the language. Somebody asks me a question about something, you know, I go, well, you know, they say, oh, what's Minecraft? And I say, Minecraft is Legos for adults, right? That's a safe answer, right? So when people go, oh, wow, that sounds really interesting. It's not, Minecraft is a highly pixelated first-person game by which you collect materials, build things, and kind of express yourself creatively through the creation in a virtual world. And you have to survive from zombies as well, right? I mean, that completely defeats the purpose in many ways of telling people what Minecraft is. Because what Minecraft really is not you know, this kind of story. Minecraft is a way to express yourself creatively, and people identify with that because who doesn't express themselves creatively? So I run from it even myself. So it's how you learn to deal with those things, and I think that a lot of times we don't deal with it well. At least I don't. I don't like the idea that people privilege certain kinds of activities over others, and I certainly don't like the idea that that gets tossed around as meaning that you are somehow underneath them or below them. That makes me angry, really, regardless of what the activity or the things are. You know, I'm a kind of person that believes that people are just different. They have different interests, and you know, we should all be respectful of those interests. You might not share them, like, you know. As you all know, I have a tremendous undying love for anime. But in any case, you know, that's just never going to be my thing, guys. It's just not. But I don't think any less of any of you for subscribing to that or having a part in it, right? I don't care. To each your own, right? So great point, Kane Hyman. Thank you so much for that. Nightcrawler talked about, I'm going to go 3 rapid fire here, which are really good. First, Nightcrawler is Star Wars. And this one was surprising to me, too, because everyone used to love Star Wars. But I don't think what Nightcrawler is talking about is the fact that people know what Star Wars is or have seen Star Wars. If you know what an Incom T-16 Skyhopper is, that's different than being like, wow, Star Wars is cool. That Luke guy totally kills but saves his father at the same time. It's a redemption story. That's a completely different thing, right? Right. So if you can sit down and talk about how, you know, the planet of origin for Wookiees and the, you know, the depth of the story about how certain things we see in the narrative of the prequels and the original 3 movies kind of don't work together, then you are immediately cast into a very, very geeky kind of story, or at least a geeky kind of light. But if you simply can identify those things, you can identify those movies, you can just know them, and you can say, oh, this was a good movie or this was a bad movie, then I think you're probably not cast as much as a geek. But Nightcrawler's, you know, extensive encyclopedic knowledge of Star Wars gets him, you know, derided and mocked, and I completely understand that. I've been in that situation many times. Yeah, and I don't even really have an exhaustive knowledge of Star Wars. My knowledge used to be great. My knowledge now is not so wonderful. If you don't use it, you lose it. And I haven't seen the movies in a while, mostly because of the prequels. But anyway, I need to get back and watch the old movies again. Good one. Wrath of Seven mentioned Pokemon. Man, that's a good one. So this is another one where I never got into it. I don't like Pokemon. I've never really been a big fan. But Rue is like over the top on Pokemon. I just kind of go, whatever, you know. And yes, I will admit, I've made fun of him in the past for his love of Pokemon. I'm as guilty as anybody else, guys. You caught me red-handed. Pokemon is the answer. I never have liked it, and I don't like it. And it's one of those things that I could completely understand. You get derided for the fact that you play Pokemon. Oh, isn't this a kid's game? Well, yeah, it's a kid's game, but I like it. You know, I mean, I'll give you an example. I happen to like the cartoon SpongeBob SquarePants. I even like the new Looney Tunes show, which I think is actually very good. You know, if you ever go watch one of those shows, you're going to be really, really embarrassed about the commercials that come, you know, while you're watching. Because the commercials that come on are for a demographic that you left behind 20, 15 years ago. You know what I mean? And so that's really problematic. But anyway, so I enjoy those things, and I don't care who knows about it. Because if somebody asks me why I like SpongeBob SquarePants, it's because I'd say it's because it's allegorical to the life of people. And it speaks to the human condition, and I really like that. I identify with those characters. I identify with SpongeBob as being pretty geeky. I identify with, you know, Patrick being the kind of eccentric friend. And Squidward being, you know, kind of the guy that everybody hates but loves at the same time. You know, a boss that you don't necessarily get along with. I mean, it speaks to all those things, and that's why I like it. I think Pokemon is probably the same way. So I'll definitely give you that one. And Lord of Nothing is going to kick off my stories that I'm going to tell today. And I think I only have 2 of them I need to tell you. But, and this is with writing. So Lord of Nothing decided to be creatively fueled by some of the geekier things that he's a part of, like the Lord of the Rings or, you know, what have you. Just inspired to write creatively about those things. Okay, completely understand and know why that would be a difficult thing to write about. So, something that is the stuff of legends among my friends and among those who are close to me is something that I began when I was in 10th grade English class, which was we could, every Tuesday, we were allowed to write whatever we wanted to write. So we would have journal entries every day that we had to write in order to kind of write, just to kind of free flow thoughts and ideas onto paper. And they had to be like a page each. Well, eventually we got to a point where every Tuesday you would write whatever you wanted to write. But then eventually we got to a point where our teacher said, you know what, I'm not going to give you a topic to write about today. I want you to just write about whatever you want until the end of the class. Well, what I had started to do was spin a narrative that I had started, kind of featuring caricatures of all the people that were around me in my group of friends. And therefore, what ended up happening was it kind of started in weekly installments, and then I started to run out of paper. It was only supposed to be a page, and I was writing like a page and a half, 2-3 pages for each little story arc or segment, because I always wanted to leave it with a cliffhanger. Every single day would be left as a cliffhanger. And so I remember getting a little bit down the line in these things and asking my teacher about it. And I remember him being in front of the whole class and saying, I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember it being particularly good or particularly interesting. Okay, that kind of hurt a little bit. I was a little bit worried about that. But the fact that I brought up the fact that I was writing this, you know, kind of geek epic in my journal was probably enough to crucify me in front of everyone, but luckily it did not. In any case, so I was already rejected from my teachers, but as we started to write these things, I got the story down, and I wasn't sure, I don't know if it happened immediately or if it happened years later, but we picked that thing up, and I still have it. It's still around here somewhere. And it's in a beat up old journal. And every once in a while, we would still get together, to even just a year or so ago, we would get together and I would read the story for everyone, because Rue to this day basically, I don't even know why I'm telling you guys this, basically asserts that it is the greatest homoerotic, undertoned novel ever written, which I find to be absolutely absurd and ridiculous, because it's a love story between a man and a woman, so I don't understand what he's talking about. But in any case, It has now become the source of laughs and just a ton of mockery